Jealousy was definitely a huge issue when we very first started our open relationship, and that was, after a lot of digging, I found out was just a lot of my own insecurity about my body, because just all that stuff, like, oh, I found somebody that loves my body now, like, what if I lose him? Like, that was really scary. But so I found, like, once I really worked on my own insecurities and really found my own value and worth and realized that, you know, like, yeah, that person over there is beautiful and powerful, but so am I. That doesn't take away from me. And that's one of the things opening up our relationship. My husband still tells me, he's like, I'm so glad you see how valuable you are. Like, and that was something that, you know, and we kind of joke about it, but fortunately he's not the type of person that would be manipulative or abusive, because I probably would have been in a very good spot for somebody to manipulate me or abuse me. But he's very nerdy. He's very, like, ones and zeros and, like, numbers and calculators. So luckily he was just, like, you know, being a nerd about it. So he was never emotionally manipulative. But so the jealousy thing really doesn't come up a lot. I'm always really excited for us to have these experiences, because I see how much it adds to our lives. Every time we've had an experience, we come back together, and, you know, we may not talk about the exact details of, like, what physically happened, I mean, beyond, like, safety concerns, but the conceptual things that we learn about ourselves is wonderful, and it gives us something to talk about for, like, another several months, and like, that's amazing. Or, like, we'll say, like, wow, like, I just never realized this perspective or this, that, and I feel like I'm changing, and I'm like, that's exciting to me now. It's not threatening, because I feel like if we were not changing, that would stagnate, and that would be really terrible. And so I guess I've really embraced that change and that stuff that most people find really scary, which was difficult to do. It was a whole process, but I figured it out. Was there another question, part to that question? I'm sorry.
No, that's really great. Interesting. Actually, I wanted to ask, because you were talking about how, like, your own insecurities about yourself or what made you feel jealous. Do you think that, I mean, I guess maybe it's hard to say, but do you think that being non-monogamous and do you think that caused you to face those things in a way that helped you become more comfortable with yourself, or more confident that maybe wouldn't have happened otherwise? Or
yeah, I think so. Because I think that's what the I don't want to call it the myth of monogamy, because monogamy can be very good for people.
That is a book title, by the way.
It is? Oh, yeah. I should have thought of it first then. But, you know, is that these rules are in place to keep you safe. Like, if we never have to talk about what it feels like for your partner to say, I think that person's really hot, you never get that experience, right? This is a really, really mundane example, but at work we got a new printer, and everyone was so scared to use the printer that nobody ever did anything. So I went one day and I just pushed all the buttons and I figured out how to use the printer, but then everyone was coming to me to make copies and do these things. And I was like, just use the printer. Once you get over it, you know how it works, you can operate the printer and make your own copies. And so, like, that's, like, how I just, like, feel that this is that I was, like, avoiding it because it was this scary thing with all these buttons. But once you know how it works, it's not scary anymore, because you have control, you have experience, you have understanding of how the whole process works, and then you can make copies of whatever body part you like.
Relationships and office furniture.
Yeah.
For comparison.
See, that's the parallels that I somehow get. But yeah, like you put yourself in these situations that you would not have the opportunity to explore in your mind or your relationship any other way. And so that's like a pretty good crash course to getting experience. And for me, experience equals power. If I can look back and say, I've had this experience before, I feel like I have a little bit control over it now, just like with anything, with learning how to drive, with, going through a death. I mean, all of these things, they're super scary the first time you do them, but once you have that experience, it's so valuable. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely think that is because you're put in some pretty like quick and odd situations sometimes when you're like, oh, we've negotiated all of this. Oh shit, like a total new like dynamic or a totally new
we thought we
thing.
Talked through everything. We didn't think of this thing.
Right. So now we got to talk about it, and it gives you that opportunity to talk about it and untangle it, and it gives you a good skill set of things that it's like, okay, like we don't know what specific parameters are going to come up, but these are the principles that we have guiding us. Like one of the big things that I have is that when I'm sitting and all of a sudden I have to make a decision, I immediately think, will the future me thank me for this? And if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, I need to take a step back.
I love that way of thinking about things.
And that's something that came out of, having open relationships and talking to people and doing these things. So that's cool.
That's really cool.